All right. Hi, and welcome everybody. So this is our first huddle in a couple months. We took a little bit of a break in the summertime. So I'm really excited to kick off the fall with another session. And what we decided to do today is give an example of an exercise that we do in our group cohort. It's my absolute favorite exercise. Um, I got to coach Trent in the last cohort. And Trent, I can't remember if you were there and did this exercise already, but I'm expanding on it today a little bit. We're doing a bucket list kind of vision activity, and then creating a roadmap. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about the group cohort, what we do in the group sessions, for anyone who isn't really sure about that or who hasn't done it or participated. Our group program is a 12-week personal development program that we created to help athletes with identity exploration in and outside of sport. And it includes weekly group sessions and educational videos. And we host a cohort every couple of months. And so at the very end, I'll include a link to more information about that and registration if anyone has not participated and is interested in doing so. Um, so our group coaching program has three sections. The first section is called the In. It's about growing to know yourself and really digging into our internal world, focusing on emotions, exploring that. Then we have Out, which is navigating life and mindset. And then we've got Forward, which is looking towards what's next. So today's activity, the bottomless bucket list, is in the forward block. And it's part of our identity exploration, exploring future paths, and really looking at what kind of life we want to design outside of sports and going forward. So this exercise is basically to help you think outside the box, design your life like without limits, and then turn those dreams basically into a roadmap and getting more clear on what we want and how to get there. So, quick personal share about me and why this is my favorite exercise to do is that quick background for those of you who don't know me. I played college basketball at the Division II level and did not expect to have any struggle in the transition out of sports, but I really did. It kind of surprised me. I was ready for it to be done. I thought I had a pretty clear path of what I wanted to do after sports, but quickly found that I didn't really choose the right career path for me. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do once I figured that out. And I also was struggling at the same time with nutrition and exercise, how to eat, how to exercise when it wasn't for sport, and then also in my identity, just in general, just a total having a full on crisis that I did not expect to have. And I remember thinking like, man, if I'm struggling this much at the Division II level, thinking that I had things figured out before I retired from sports, it must be so hard for others, for professionals, for Olympians, for people who end their career on an injury or unexpectedly. So that's not only just trying to figure out balance for my own life, but wanting to help others is what made me choose to become a holistic health coach. And so I went on my own journey, got my certification through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And even though my focus and expertise kind of is more focused on nutrition and exercise, there's a lot of my training that also dives into mindset and behavior. And I did a very similar exercise to this about 10 years ago, because that's when I was fully certified. And so during the program, they had us do a very similar activity where we were looking ahead and building a roadmap forward. And so that'll actually be the second part of today's activity. And that's kind of expanding actually in a little bit more detail into what we do in the group cohort. So I'm taking this exercise that we do in the group and I'm going to expand it a little bit further. So even if you did do the group cohort and you've done this exercise before, we're going to take it a little bit further and get a little bit, even a little bit more clarity. So Um, so basically, the reason I bring that up is when I originally did the exercise like this and put out what I wanted to accomplish in 5 years' time, 3 years' time, 1 year's time, when I wrote those things down and really got clear on that path, what happened was is those things happened much more quickly than I anticipated. So even just putting out there, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. How am I going to do that? Breaking it down, putting that focus, it really that clarity brought it into fruition, just kind of a lightning speed, and it was really exciting. And so I really got to see how being clear and building a roadmap and helping have that to guide my decision making really accelerated my success in all parts of my life. And I really enjoy sharing that with all of you. And this is an exercise that I do pretty much every single year. And I revisit and I look back at what I had set out to do previously. And it's really exciting to be able to check things off the list that maybe I was hoping to accomplish, down the road 5 years from now. So I'm excited. I'm excited to lead you guys through that. So another example of that, just kind of one of the things that I put out there when I did this exercise was I knew I wanted to work with athletes in their transition out of sports. So when I was writing down things that I wanted to achieve in this field, I knew that to raise awareness about the difficulty of the athlete transition, that I wanted to write a book about that transition, as well as provide guidance to give myself clarity on the type of programming I would do, but also to, like I said, raise awareness and also get myself out there as an expert in the field. And so I ended up writing the book. I ended up finishing it sooner than I anticipated. It went up on Amazon. And because of that book, I was approached by Miriam about Athlete Soul. That was in 2019. And so I had, a vision at the time, 10 years ago when I did that exercise. I had a vision of me actually working from home because I knew I wanted to have kids. I wanted to be able to work from home. I wanted to have my own office. I wanted to be able to travel around a bit to talk to athletes about the transition out of sport and also provide support. I wanted to be doing coaching. I wanted to be in charge of my own schedule. And so I had this vision of what I wanted my life to look like. But I didn't know how that was going to turn out, right? I didn't have like all of the pieces. And because of the action steps I took, I was able to connect with Miriam and join on board with Athlete Soul. And when I joined Athlete Soul, I did this exercise again because I was like, man, when I pictured working with athletes, I was at the college level. So I kind of pictured myself working with college level athletes because that's where I was. That's where I, transitioned out of. But working with Athlete Soul expanded me to be able to reach professional athletes and Olympians. And I was like, wow, I hadn't even dreamed that big. So when I joined in with Athlete Soul, that expanded my vision of what I wanted to achieve and what my future looked like. And it ended up taking me here talking to you guys, but also, for example, being able to go to the Olympics and being a representative and coach for Athlete Soul there, which was really exciting and something that I had never thought that I could do 10 years ago. So continuing to do this exercise and having a vision of what you want can take you there and take you beyond even what you imagined. So I just wanted to give a little example about how this exercise has helped shape my own path. Some people might call it manifestation, but really it's getting clear. It's putting energy towards a focused path and aligning your action with that path. And that's really how we get from A to B. When we know what we want, we notice opportunities, we say yes to the right things, and our behavior quietly reshapes our path. So I want to, before we jump in, so if you don't have a pen and paper already, make sure to grab it because we're going to spend a good chunk of time here writing down some bucket list items. But dreaming big, before we start, I just want to say dreaming big isn't delusional. This is what's giving you direction. So when we do the bottomless bucket list exercise to gain clarity on what we want, I want you to like not give yourself any limits at all. I want it to be like, if there were no barriers, no obstacles, what would you want your life to look like? And you're not going to have to share this with anybody. So this can be as crazy as you want it to sound. You want it to be playful. You want it to be expansive. You want it to be messy. We're going to capture volume first, and then we'll organize it later. So don't worry about trying to be organized. Don't worry about try to make a ton of sense. But we're going to take some time to write down at least 50 items that you want in your life, in your future. You don't have to put any limits on it or time period. It can be something you want to accomplish before you die in the next 50 years, in the next 20 years, 10 years, all of that. It can be big ideas. It can be small ideas. It can be weird. But you want to be specific, especially because now we're going to be writing 50. Okay. So be specific. They can be small, big, all of that. That's all right, Maddie. Thanks. I'm going to put this in the chat to kind of give you maybe some ideas, and then I'll start a timer. Okay, let's see here. All right. And I tried to get fancy today to play some music so we don't have like a 8-minute awkward silence. So we'll see if this works because I've never tried it before. Can you hear that? Is it working? Cool. Steve, I know you've done this before. Steve gave me this idea.
Yeah, just a little loud.
Okay, thank you. How's that? Good? One more minute. All right. I spent way too much time trying to figure out what musical vibe to do for this. That is called chill hop. I did not know that was a type of music, but found it. Okay, so now if you love to organize. This is going to be fun for you. If you have highlighters or some sort of emoji system you want to use, we're going to basically organize what you've written down into different categories. So I'll put into the chat some different categories you might use. Career, learning, adventure and travel, health and performance, relationships, family, creativity, wealth and finances, home, service or community, spirituality, things like that. Doesn't have to be these, but those are just some suggestions on how to organize what you've written down. You could use highlighters, you could just put a letter next to them, some sort of emoji, whatever you want to do. And they can have about 1 more minute. All right, so now we'll take a couple minutes from your kind of clusters that you've got. I want you to star 5 high energy items. So those would be like probably the top 5 things you wrote down that most light you up and most make you feel aligned with who you're becoming. And then 5 low lift, you want to circle 5 low lift wins, things that you could realistically initiate in the next 30 to 60 days. I put that in the chat as a reminder. All right. So I'd love to take a couple minutes and hear from you guys before we move on to the next, like the next part of this exercise. Um, how did it go for you? I'd love to hear like if it was challenging to get to 50 items, if it was easy, if you ended up writing things down you didn't expect to write down, how to make you feel, all of that. Anyone willing to share about their experience?
I can chime in. Yeah, I didn't get close to 50, but I probably just I'm certain there are things on here that could have been broken into a few different ways. Like I just kept it vague to kind of keep like the ideas coming. Um, I did find I had a wide range of things, but there was like, related to when I broke into these categories, I found, oh, I'm really into travel right now. So there were a lot kind of in this area of I want to travel. Then there was like a lot in this lifestyle, and then career was kind of another bucket. Um, it kind of surprised me that I didn't have more because pretty regularly I'm writing down about 10 goals that are on my mind for the future. So to only have gotten about 20 was surprisingly low. But I think because I have ingrained these 10 so much that my brain kind of was just stuck on, all right, here's like the 10, here's a few more. Um, so I wonder if I either give myself more time or have a different perspective, probably could have gotten to the 50.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Kelsey. Especially being on the coaching side, and kind of thinking about these things quite a bit. I can see how you're kind of laser focused in on what you've got going on right now. I would recommend taking if anybody to taking the time to kind of finish that out because it really does stretch you to have to continue trying to think outside the box to get to that number. So that's part of it is it really is to get yourself to that number. I actually did was led through this exercise one time where we had to get to 100 and that really was a push, but it really made me get super specific so that I could just get to the number. But that's part of it is it pushes you.
100 is wild. I didn't count when I was writing down. I was just writing down, and when I had a block in my brain, I just moved to a different category. Um, and also, I think for me, I kind of thought maybe it kind of depends on stage of life where you're at, where you may have accomplished some things that were on your list, and then you're thinking about what are some other things that I haven't yet done that I would like to do. For me, a lot of it was travel related, just kind of thinking about places that I want to go. Um, but then surprisingly, I wrote down create an app. I didn't think about how, if I was going to do that, but that just came to mind, like creating an app for community, because I'm always around community and doing stuff with community. So that was surprising. But for me, also, when it came to like the energy level and the low lift wins, I feel like the low lift wins are things that I'm starting to work towards right now, which are helpful because it just maybe putting it in a category just made me think about like, okay, I can actually get these accomplished pretty soon here if I just put it in my agenda. Like one of them is mastering AI and how I can use that to help my business. Um, and the other one's just helping my kids kind of continue to find their passion. So that's a fun part. But my high energy ones are a little abstract. Like I'm talking about going to space. I'm talking about flying in a wingsuit, doing some jet packs, hiking crazy stuff, like things that speak to my adventurous side, I guess.
Love it. Oh no. Sorry, my internet
Um,
is going in and out a little bit here. Yeah, go ahead, Grace, and share.
I was just gonna say, I think it's kind of interesting that when I compare my top five energy ones, they're less about the fun ones and they're about the ones that seem a little more daunting to me. Like I'm still relatively early in my career. I'm still in school, so looking at these things like where I want to work career wise or like big things in regards to family decisions, like some of these things that are a little more daunting tended to be my more high energy ones that are a little more stressful as opposed to those ones that are more like fun and like play to my playful side or my adventurous side. So
Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, Grace.
oh,
Go keep going.
I don't know how much you heard of what I said, but I was just saying in a little bit of contrast to what Steve was saying about his route, playing like his top five high energy ones would be more adventurous, exciting ones. But I know, sorry, excuse my son. My high energy ones tended to be more of these like daunting tasks that seem a little more daunting to me, like where I want to end up career wise or family wise, um, and things like that.
Gotcha. Thank you. I should have a better internet connection now to my hotspot instead. All right. Well, let's keep going and get to the next part of this activity. So this is going to be about building a little bit of a roadmap. So I'm going to lead us through a little bit of a guided visualization here to think about what we want our life to look like in 10 years from now. So the bucket list was kind of a warm up for this activity to just kind of get you thinking what you want to achieve, what you want life to look at like in various parts. But now we're going to get a little bit more specific. So go ahead if you want to close your eyes, get comfortable in your chair. We're going to think about 10 years from now in 2035, which is crazy. And think about how old you're going to be. Think about who you want around you at this time. This will be September 2035. What's the weather going to be like? Where are you located? That's probably a good first question before thinking about weather. Where are you in the world? Where do you live? What kind of home do you have? Are you in a house? Are you in an apartment? What's around you? What do you hear? What do you smell? What are you working on? How are you making an impact? Thinking about these things and visualizing September 5th of 2035. all the details that you see around you, how you feel. What are your hobbies? What do you like to do? Do you have any pets? So after you feel like you have a pretty good vision of this, go ahead and take a minute to write these things down. Capture the sensory details, and then write like 3 headlines, like of what is going on in your life in 2035. The main 3 main things that came to mind for you. All right. So now for 2035 to be real, what must be true for you by 2030? So what are some 5-year milestones? Think, location, body of work, relationships, income, experiences, credentials, whatever it is that you would need to have in the next 5 years to lead to that 10-year life that you're imagining. Let me give us a couple more minutes for that. Okay, and now think about the same things. If 2035 is to be real, what do you need to accomplish by, or sorry, 2030 in the next 5 years? It can be real. What do you need to accomplish by 2028 at the 3-year from now mark? Write another 5 milestones. Chat for some inspiration. those 3-year goals possible? And then what do you need to accomplish by the 6-month mark, so March 2026? The 3-month mark by December, and then the end of this month. So we're just breaking it down, backing it up. Okay. So basically, now we're looking at, okay, we've backtracked from the 10-year mark. Now we've got some action items for the next month that seem realistic. And we're going to kind of reframe these kind of goals or tasks to experiments. And the reason I say experiments is because it turns what can feel like maybe high stakes or like a success fail, situation to more curious or playful. As athletes, we kind of already live in that performance metric. And using experiment kind of reframes that forward progress as exploration and not judgment if it doesn't work out. Experiments can be adjusted if they don't work, and you always learn something from it, right? So it's going to build a growth mindset, and it's giving you data for how to move forward. So instead of asking like, did I fail at this? You can ask, what did I learn about this? In what direction I'm going? And it's especially useful for post-sport athletes who are redefining success and what success means beyond winning or losing. So we want to keep these experiments tiny and testable. So instead of saying like, okay, I want to get fit, instead writing something more specific, like try one 20-minute strength training session twice a week for 2 weeks. We want to be specific, make it doable, and also sustainable. And it's also something energizing that gets you excited. They're meant to be short, so something that you can try in the next couple of weeks, and then something that can kind of stack onto each other so that you can accumulate wins without feeling overwhelmed. So here's some things like a way to kind of structure it. So I'll put this in the chat. It shows up weird when I copy and paste it. There we go. So when you think about the action, you want to write it down. Probably already did that. Why now? How does it connect to your values or who you are? So for example, it might be, I want to speak publicly to inspire others. So the experiment would be maybe something small. So it'd be like draft a 2-minute voice memo telling your story and sending it to one trusted friend. Why now? How does that align? It aligns with if you value contribution, that was how that would align with you. A signal. So you want to have something, a date, like some way to measure it. So what are you going to do? Are you going to record it by this date and send it by this date? And also ask yourself how it felt. And then if there's something that seems like an obstacle, so identify a friction and how you'll overcome it so that you can clear that in advance. So maybe it's time. Oh, might not have time for that. Well, block it in your calendar. That could be one way to reduce friction. And then for support, who are you going to have that you can be accountable to follow through? So maybe it's, if you're in this example, asking a mentor or a friend to listen to your voice memo and give some feedback. So that's kind of the way you want to structure some of these tasks and think about these experiments to test some things out and see how they feel. So if you haven't done that, you take a second to frame those experiments in that way. Give like a minute for that. So if you haven't had time, I know it's like not a ton of time to really dig into some of this, but it gives you some ideas on how to finish this activity maybe after we're done here. Um, but before I ask, how this exercise went for all of you guys, some ongoing practices that you can do, because this is something you can redo, every 6 months, every year, especially when it comes to writing down the tasks that you have for the end of this month, for the end of the next 3 months, to accomplish in the next 6 months. Like those are things that likely you're going to be revisiting pretty frequently. But know too that like we call them experiments because even though we've sat down and kind of imagined this 10-year down the road future, that's very malleable. That can always change. So checking in with yourself every year about what that visualization you have for yourself, it could look different, next year based on what you've experimented with this year. So it's always good to kind of check in and reevaluate. Some other tools that can really help are vision boards. So if you've ever done a vision board, you can use that bucket list to kind of, I am basically inspire some images you'd want to put on there. You can use your 2035 sensory notes of what you imagine life to be looking like and what would be representative of that. I used to do vision boards each year. And every time I felt like I kind of like accomplished something, I put like a little sticker on it. It was really fun to put a sticker on something. It's kind of like checking something off the list. And then another thing that's kind of fun sometimes is having like a playlist anchor. So having one song or songs that kind of pull you into that reality of like what you want your life to look like, is kind of a fun thing to make and revisit. And then just setting some like check-in dates for yourself to evaluate how things are going and check in with what your goals are. We have a couple more minutes. Who found it really hard to imagine what you wanted life to look like in 10 years from now? Or did you guys have a clear vision of that?
The first thing that popped in my head is my son will be in college. It's like, oh boy.
It's going to change things.
Yeah. It's like I get some time, but also getting him ready for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a hard time picturing 10 years because I'm having a hard time picturing like 6 months from now, which is awesome. Like for good reasons, but I'm just like,
Mhm.
man, I went through just a big move in transition. So to imagine anything further than a month from now is like feels very fantasy, like not good or bad, just hard to picture.
Yeah, definitely. It can be really, really challenging, especially like, for athletes who are immediately kind of coming out of sport. It can be, there's a lot of transitions that could be happening, but imagining 10 years can feel really overwhelming. That's why I said like just taking pressure off that this can always change, doesn't have to be set in stone, that we're working towards a certain vision in 10 years, but it gives us a little bit of a starting point and makes us start thinking about where we want to head. That's also why I did the bucket list first to try to warm up some of those thoughts.
I just want to add to this, Katie, that I appreciate this exercise because I'm of the same mindset of setting the vision and then tracing back to the small steps and experimentation. Because you can say these things and have these visions of things, but then when you go out and experiment, you may pivot or you may
Mhm.
learn something different and you may go down a different pathway. So really encourage like actually going out and putting it into practice and getting the data, as you mentioned, to then have something to look at and make another decision about.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think a good example that I can provide just from my own journey is I had a whole vision as I was going through college. I got an English degree. I wanted to go into publishing. I had this dream of like going to New York and being working in some publishing house and doing something totally different. And so my whole degree, everything I did in college outside of sports was all geared towards that. And when I I moved to Seattle after college and did a couple internships with some publication, I guess, organizations. I quickly realized that was not for me. And I was like, oh no, I just spent my whole college track, getting this degree to do this thing. And I had this vision of what I wanted and I felt very clear. And then that experiment of doing those internships made me realize that's not at all what I wanted to do anymore. And that was scary. That was really scary. That's when I was like, oh no, what am I going to do with my life? And had a little bit of a crisis there, but it pivoted me, and that was okay. And I was able to use those skills that I had from my English degree, and because I wanted to go into publishing, to write my book, that I ended up publishing and brought me to Athlete Soul. So even those experiments that you might feel like were, oh no, I thought I wanted this, but I don't, pivoting, that doesn't mean that it all was lost. You could still use those skills. Everything that you've learned along the way on a path that you thought you wanted to go can help support you in a different path too. So hopefully that brings comfort to some people. But yeah, well, thank you. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this exercise. It's my favorite to do in the group cohorts. And I think everyone in here is either coaching or been in the group cohorts before. So I don't really need to drop the information going forward. But thank you guys for joining in. For those of you who maybe already done this exercise, I hope you got something new out of it. And yeah, stay tuned for more fun Athlete Soul Huddles coming your guys' way in the future. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.